This opportunity is pretty decent. For the sake of little fortune star, you should interact with them more, Wang Jun said. He did not mind the childish show-offs. Regardless, with his experience, it was difficult for him to have any sort of reaction to such trivial matters. Don't worry, leave it to me. I was just thinking of inviting investments. Yan Xiaoshu was now qualified to do so. The ballroom was bustling with activity. Everyone was part of a group, chatting away. Although it had only been months since they last saw one another, many of them had undergone drastic changes. Wang Jung enjoyed watching from afar. He couldn't hear what they were talking about, but it felt like water from a stream flowing past. In the hundreds of billions of people who lived, it was the chanced coinciding of time and space that allowed them to meet. Fate of such was never easy to come by. All of a sudden, Wang Jung's soul was enlightened and brought into a whole new world full of clarity. Student Wang was stumped. Attending a reunion actually helped to improve his unifying techniques. His progress had stagnated for some time now, and this moment meant breaking through a bottleneck. It was an extremely unique feeling. Training the 5 elements was an accumulation of knowledge and skills. In becoming one with the world, Wang Jung could only do so on the facade. It was difficult for him to achieve what Bonehead had described, unifying his soul. In fact, Wang Jung had wanted to ask, how do you unify your soul with the world, extract it and mash it all together? But asking would probably mean being electrocuted. Wang Jung was not stupid. Yet he felt it right at this moment. To machines like Bonehead, it was indeed indescribable. It was a feeling beyond any words of any language. Wang Jung. Wang Jung. The calls from the world outside pulled Wang Jung back from that feeling. His vision gradually became clear. Wang Jung sighed to himself. If only he could experience it for a while longer. But with such revelry, there was bound to be more opportunities in future. He found the man standing before him familiar, but... Hot damn. Disowning me now that you're a war god? Wang Jung turned to stone. That can't be. Xiao Junj, a Nerf gun turned into a cannon? Xiao Junj burst into laughter. Pretty good, my new look. I'm an elite student from the Michigan School of Business now, so I can't possibly continue to behave like the hooligan I used to be. Xiao Junj was one of the few who got along well with Wang Jung and Yan Xiaoshu. The dude was obsessed with gaming. He used to wear a fowl's nest on his head and looked like a creepy otaku. Now he was dressed in fancy suit, coupled with a pair of silver snake-framed glasses. He had turned into a suave young man. Xiao Junj looked at Wang Jung. You haven't changed. Hey, I heard your brother Yan Xiaoshu struck it rich. He's gotta look after us in the future, man. Yi Zisu was at a level beyond reach. Now that little fortune star had risen meteorically and has a bright future ahead, the finance students had to stick their noses in. You're exaggerating. Wang Jung was taken by surprise. How did word of this news spread so far and wide? It seemed like everyone knew about it. What do you mean, you're exaggerating, bro? Grow some money sense. Little fortune star isn't much, but you think about it. They're standing on par with OMG, CT, and Maggard. Right now, the company's scraps alone are worth hundreds of millions. Tisk tisk. That shorty is in luck. Xiao Junj looked on in envy. The expansion of big companies was no longer worth studying, but small companies like Little Fortune Star were definitely miracles in the business world. It managed to outperform dozens of large-scale corporations. What are you boys talking about? Here, Wang Jung, try this sugar apple. It's really sweet. Lu Xin held out a fruit platter. Oh no, Lu Xin, it's only been a few months and you've grown curvier. How curvy will you get in the future? Go away. Are you asking for a beating, little Jun? It seems like everyone's doing pretty well. Wang Jung helped himself to a slice of sugar apple. It was indeed fragrant and sweet. Fresh fruits like this were hard to come by these days. What about you? Same college as Yi Zisu. Didn't you try to bring it a step further? Lu Xin asked, treating it like a gossip. Why would you say that? Based on the present situation, he and Yi Zisu were like missed high fives. Hush, this is a secret. I used to frequently catch her in the field, watching you train from afar, Lu Xin whispered. Wang Jung was sweating slightly. This room truly didn't seem to have any ventilation. What were you doing there when Yi Zisu was peeping? Xiao Junj asked subconsciously. Lu Xin flushed. I passed by. She clenched her teeth and suddenly said, it's no big deal, I had a crush on Wang Jung a while back. It was just a reunion, and they were no longer in the same school, so it was natural that she felt a lot braver than she used to. Wang Jung chuckled. Well, you failed miserably. I didn't even notice you had a crush. It's you who's slow. Do you remember the time I asked you to fix the lights in my dormitory? Lu Xin said. It was more appropriate to talk about such things during these kinds of reunions. Lu Xin's eyes hid a trace of bitterness. I do, didn't I get it fixed? Wang Jung was puzzled. How was that considered a crush? But he also thought it odd that Lu Xin knew he could fix it. Dumbass. I burnt a hole in my pocket to buy a meal for the girls in my dorm to make them go away. Xiao Junj roared with laughter. Bro, I can only say that out of all the people I know, you've got the lowest EQ. She spoiled her lights on purpose to create a romantic atmosphere for you, and you really fixed it. Sigh, the beauty's love has gone to waste. Wang Jung did not know whether to laugh or cry. His thoughts had never, ever ventured into that area. It was only right that he stuck out a helping hand for a classmate. Yours truly is attached now. You missed your chance at a perfect girl like me, so you better take good hold of the next one. Lu Xin still felt something for him. Wang Jung did not come from a rich family, and his results at school was average, but his serious attitude still attracted some girls. Cough cough. Let me know who's got a crush on me next time. Wang Jung sighed, wearing a look of pity. Well, it's said that you break up couples as much as you can at class reunions. Don't tell me the two of you are rekindling old flames. Xiao Junj made a face. Wang Jung and Lu Xin flipped him off at the same time. Lu Xin was one of few girls who knew Wang Jung well. Most of the girls never had a conversation with him in the 4 years of school. Wang Jung, come clean with me. Did you always hover somewhere along the passing line on purpose? Lu Xin was very curious. I've been contemplating about this for a long time, but I don't think you are the sort that'd do that. Lu Xin, you're rubbing salt on his wound. It's not as if you don't know about his situation. Many people also perform well during exams when they are relaxed. Xiao Junj was rather expressive. Wang Jung was speechless. Are you two even human? Can't you let me off the hook now that we've graduated? No way. A voice rang. Yi Zisu joined them. Ah, Zisu, here, have a seat, here. Even though she was the star of the show, Yi Zisu had actually noticed them in the corner. Xiao Junj was pretty excited. OMG Corporation had been under the spotlight recently. Unlike Little Fortune Star, OMG had a very strong foundation. Being a mecha repair service provider, OMG had always wanted to venture into research and manufacturing. Now that they had come on board CT's and Maggard's cruise ship, the financial world predicted OMG would soar. If there were to be breakthroughs in research, being one of the larger shareholders, they had plenty of say at the negotiation table. Yi Zisu was naturally watched and paid attention to. Lu Xin was taken aback, but she smiled. Lu Xin, don't be tricked by his honest appearance. This person is the meanest of the lot. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Classmate Yi, I am Xiao Junj. Thank you for inviting me to this reunion. We're classmates, you don't have to thank me. Top student of Michigan, There might be opportunities for us to work together in the future. Yi Zisu laughed. Xiao Junj couldn't feel more pumped up. When did the school belle become so friendly and approachable? Women's sixth sense could sniff anything. Lu Xin could sense that there was something between Yi Zisu and Wang Jung. Wang Jung, you're much closer to Yi Zisu than we are now. You've got to spend more time with her. She's asked me about you back in middle school, Lu Xin revealed. Wang Jung knew that Lu Xin was doing this on purpose. This loud-mouthed girl had a kind heart. On the other hand, Xiao Junj felt nervous. He was worried that Yi Zisu would be offended. Even though they were classmates, she was not an ordinary person. Opportunities to improve their relationships were hard to come by, and it would be disastrous if the little princess was angered. These days, if he were to tell his tutors that he knew Yi Zisu well, it would definitely be a big deal. Lu Xin, you and your big mouth. Don't spout nonsense. Xiao Junj tried to make things less awkward. Kidding around in private was one thing, as it'd be forgotten after a while. But Yi Zisoo had a different status. Before Lu Xin could talk back, Yi Zisoo chuckled. It's true. I've wooed him all the way to Aries College. But what can I possibly do if others choose to ignore me? Yi Zisoo said half-jokingly. The hard, anguished look in her eyes melted away. The two companions they had were utterly shocked. Xiao Junj stared hard at Wang Jung. Bro, you're truly my idol. Zisoo is making fun of me. You can't possibly believe that is true. Wang Jung laughed. The speaker's intent differs from the listener's. He now referred to her as Zisoo, unlike in the past. Zisoo, what are you doing here? Everyone's waiting for you. They had just sent Zhao Lingfeng on his way, and here came another. Lian's outfit was extraordinarily fashionable. One look and you could tell it was what was in fashion on the moon. It was easy for the moon people to get into colleges on Earth. The scores needed were lower for them. But for people on Earth to get a place in moon was an extraordinary feat. Some top schools even conducted family background checks. You guys go ahead, it doesn't matter. How could you say that? I've recently drawn up a business plan and want to discuss that with you. Our success will definitely stir an uproar on the moon, Lian said with arrogance. I don't take part in business matters, so there's no use talking to me, Yi Zisoo said. You're going to inherit OMG eventually. It'll be helpful to the company's development in the future if you get to know more elites. Lian didn't seem to show any sign of giving up. Lu Xin rolled her eyes. Master Li, don't you realize that you have been rejected politely? Do what you should be doing. Lian took in a sharp breath, but he did not lose his temper. He smiled and said, talk to you later, I'll be waiting. HMPH. What's the big deal about Feiyue Economic School? Just look at how cocky he is. Wang Jung chuckled. The top school of economics in the entire solar system is indeed a pretty big deal. Lu Xin was stumped. She shook her head and said, you'd be the death of me. Yi Zisoo took a sip of the fruit juice. She was completely used to this. She knew that Wang Jung genuinely did not care much about things like that. Some people maintained a low profile on pretense, but Wang Jung was more like an adult watching children compare how sweet their candies were. He's simply like that, I'm used to it, Yi Zisoo said, as though as she knew Wang Jung very well. Xiao Junj and Lu Xin could both feel that they had a very intimate relationship. Ahem. Classmate Yi, our school requires us to do a project every semester, and this time I'm thinking of studying the impact of space navigation on businesses. Do you have any tips to help with my project? Xiao Junj rubbed his hands. If he could complete a project on the subject, applying for scholarships wouldn't be a problem. Don't ask me. I've already said that you've got a big shot sitting right in front of you and even I have to rely on him. Yi Zisoo pointed to Wang Jung, just like a couple flirting with each other. Wang Jung was not on pretense. He was not willing to let others ask too many questions. We're classmates. Just give me a ring on Skylink if you need anything. Hang on, I'm kind of confused. I remember that there's a student in the team in charge of the research project. His name is also Wang Jung. Don't tell me that's you. Xiao Junjie's jaw dropped. He stared with eyes wide open. The story must have made its way to all the schools of higher education. Xiao Fei was world-renowned, and Marcus was very well known too. Tagging behind the two of them meant Wang Jung was also paid some attention to. But it was a pity that his own classmates did not even consider it to be him. Lu Xin was also taken by surprise. She had always thought that Wang Jung did not look like an incompetent person. Back in Dawn Middle School, she even had a debate with her roommates about it. Who could have known that within months of graduating, he... Wang Jung, you're so good at pretending, Lu Xin snarled, biting her teeth. Classmate Lu, I am at fault. I really did not pretend, I just don't want to suffer. Being famous is too scary. I've suffered twice, I don't want to suffer again, Wang Jung said. Lu Xin couldn't help but be amused. HMPH, you've still got a conscience. This class reunion was considerably successful. Student Wang was most heartened at the fact that even though Lian had an unkind look in his eyes, he was much more principled than Zhao Lingfeng. But he felt pretty good about all those who came. Regardless, most of them attended the reunion for the sake of friendship. Yi Zisoo had given her all. The expenses of the reunion were all covered by her. Her kindness and generosity led her to be elected as the 56th Alumni Club's president. Wang Jung was enjoying his student life on this end, but his life was not at all peaceful. Europe. Have you checked? Lear asked. Droop nodded his head. Miss Meng Tian and him are not a couple, but they have plenty of opportunities to interact. Wang Jung's most important friend is a man named Yan Xiaoshu. His family manufactures tissue paper. It's Little Fortune Star, the company that is very popular recently. Oh, Lear did not understand. It's the space navigation project. Lear nodded. Do we take action against Yan Xiaoshu directly, young master? Droop asked gently, as if it was nothing much. Lear smiled, lightly touching a thick book laying on his desk, Thick Black Theory. Does Yan Xiaoshu have any personal relationships? He has a girlfriend called In Mei. She's from an average family, pretty but loud. Let's start with In Mei then. Lear smiled, looking sincere. In this world, there were many things that felt worse than failure and worse than death. He could only teach his opponents that getting in his bad books was not a wise thing to do. Oh, right. Let Yu Jing play a role. Didn't Yan Xiaoshu have a crush on her? Yes, young master, but that seems to be something of the past. Whether or not that's in the past is unimportant. What's important is how In Mei will see it. He was taking a two-pronged approach. First taking care of the people around Wang Jung, then defeat him in IG. He had spoiled Meng Tian in the past. The caretaker left, and moments later, the door opened again. Yu Jing walked in like an arrogant, spoiled princess. Having found a place beside a figure like Lear, the Yu family's glory was reinstated. Yu Jing had gotten used to living the high life. She'd rather die than lose face. This Lear was a weirdo. He did not take any action despite her seduction time and again. Did he have a problem? Those who knew the Kronos family knew that the heirs of the family all had great self-discipline, similar to that of robots. They had wealth and power but did not know how to make use of it and enjoy life. Simply insane. As for Lear, he was the ultimate dominator. In the European financial world, he was nicknamed Ice Prince. Yu Jing had done a thorough check on him. He was a mad genius. He had come in contact with every aspect of his family business since age 12. Up till now, he had never made a single loss. This, of course, was not known to outsiders. If she could win this man over, she would become the Queen of Earth. Lear, dear, what is it that you want me for? Yu Jing tried her best to make her smile look innocent. She realized Lear preferred that. Lear looked at Yu Jing coldly. Something for you to do. What is it? I will be happy to serve. Yu Jing was elated. This was a great opportunity for her to play a part in the Kronos family. Seduce Yan Xiaoshu, Lear said emotionlessly. Yu Jing was stumped. Her thoughts took a sharp turn. Lear, you've misunderstood. There's nothing between him and I. That man once chased me shamelessly, but I don't have any feelings for him. There's only one person in my heart, you know that. Lear smirked. He had taken Yu Long in because the Kronos family wanted to interfere with Asian affairs. Yu Long was a good dog. He would bite anyone at Lear's orders. Are you even fit for me, huh? Yu Jing did not know how to react. Even though Lear was not enthusiastic about her, he treated her decently. He did not even bother with other women. Lear stood up and looked down at Yu Jing. I'll say it one more time. Do anything you can to seduce Yan Xiaoshu. Don't even return if you fail. He smiled and waved his hand as though he was shooing a fly. Yu Jing felt a cold wave pass through her body. She walked out of the room in a daze. The caretaker was waiting for her outside. Miss Yu Jing, please follow me. The preparations have been made. Why is Lear treating me like that all of a sudden? Does he not know that I like him? Yu Jing asked. Droop looked at Yu Jing with kindred eyes, as though nothing could ever throw him off. This might be what they called the air of elegance in a royal family. Miss Yu Jing, please be mindful of your status and be careful with what you say. The word, status, made his tone sound slightly harsher. Yu Jing stopped in her tracks. Perhaps out of fear that Yu Jing would cause delay, Droop said, it is your honor that young master has given you a task. You cannot fail. You must only succeed. I believe you are a clever girl. You do not want to suffer the consequences. Yu Jing's heart sank. Her father was a frontline worker for the Kronos. He had offended many people in his conquest to reap benefits for the Chronos family in Asia. If he lost backing from the Chronos, he would suffer dire consequences. Yu Jing was left alone in the humongous hall. She thought that she had gotten everything. To think that she was merely a pawn in others' hands, an easily dispensable chess piece. Back in the dormitories, Yao Ailun and Chen Shu were busy working on their tasks. On the other end, Zhang Shan had put on earphones, humming as he trained. Zhang Shan had officially turned in his application for a course transfer. The college usually approved such applications like that very quickly. One side was used for showing off bronze, and the other for showing off brains. They did not interfere with each other. It was very harmonious. Seeing Wang Zheng enter, Zhang Shan stopped. I've noticed that you're the most relaxed. Do you have any good methods that can be used to train burst strength? I keep feeling as if I can't unleash my strength enough in an instant. Wang Zheng thought for a second and dug out a notebook. He tore a piece of paper out, pulled open the wardrobe, and stuck it at the bottom of the door. What are you doing? Zhang Shan was bewildered. Wang Zheng smiled, and punched in the direction of the paper. The paper was instantly torn into pieces. Zhang Shan stared hard. That's not easy at all. He stuck a piece of paper himself and punched. But the paper fluttered and nothing happened. Damn, I don't believe this, it's just a piece of paper. Then Zhang Shan began to challenge the notebook. He tore it out piece by piece. If he took it head-on, it would not tear unless his strength was sufficiently explosive. Brother Zheng, come quick. We're stuck here. Seeing that Wang Zheng had nothing to do, Chen Shu dragged him over. The three of them entered a heated discussion. Wang Zheng looked at it for some time and paused. Even though we habitually tend to use depose theories, I suggest we use the most ordinary theory of relativism this time round. Although that may not be the most suitable method in some aspects, its core concept is accurate. We truly believe that Einstein has made his way back into our time. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun bit on their pen caps and pondered. Damn, you're right. How is your brain so useful? Yao Ailun was an inherently arrogant person. Only at this point did Wang Zheng fully convince and win him over. It's the details that determine one's true abilities. An absurd idea once in a while meant nothing, but Wang Zheng's foundation in the physics department was insane. It was definitely not achieved in a mere couple of years. Plus, it wouldn't work without a good teacher, and where did he find a teacher like that? Chen Shu slapped her own forehead. Brother Zheng, you're so smart, how come I have never thought of that? Wang Zheng laughed. Sometimes it helps not to think of it too complicatedly. I've got to focus on training for now. I'll leave Professor Xiao Fei's work in your hands. Hee hee. No problem. We'll reach out to you in times of need. It's all thanks to you that we get so many opportunities to conduct experiments, Chen Shu said shyly. Amongst those who were selected, only he and Yao Ailun were freshmen. The rest had been taught by Xiao Fei for a few years now. The eccentric Wang Zheng was one of them. Ordinary people would definitely give their 110% if given an opportunity like that. Yet Wang Zheng treated it like a side gig, and Xiao Fei and Marcus did not have any comment on that. Outsiders wouldn't understand, but the more one got to know him, the more legendary he would seem. On the other side, Zhang Shan was getting heated, fighting with paper. Yao Ailun and Chen Shu looked at each other. Brother Shan, you owe me a notepad. Zhang Shan grunted. I'll give you 10 tomorrow. Damn it, Wang Zheng, what's going on? I am as strong as you are, why can't I punch through it? Yao Ailun snickered. Aren't you training for burst strength? There's no use for strength. If you attacked vertically, the paper wouldn't be able to take it. It'd be pretty great if you just used 1% of your force. Use your brains, dummy. You're one of us, use your brains. Zhang Shan was stunned. You arrogant idiot, you make sense. Even though Yao Ailun and Chen Shu were not great at that, they loved researching in this area. Whether it is mecha or boxing, the theories were the same. Of course, they weren't sure whether that would work, but it was good enough that they could mock Zhang Shan. Wang Zheng was done washing up. He looked at the time and crawled into his bed, then he opened his Skylink. It should be about time. In the faraway core of the Aslan Empire, there were lights and streamers everywhere. Almost every building was decorated with birthday-themed ornaments. Today was the birthday of Princess Aina of the Aslan Empire. She had officially turned 16. From this moment on, she was going to take on more responsibilities for the country. The royal fleet of the Aslan Empire took positions amongst the planets. The debut also involved an inspection of the Empire's military. In the planet, the strongest Aslan Golden Mecha Corps was getting ready to set off. This was one of the top 3 mecha corps in the galaxy. It had never been defeated. It comprised of elites of the elites in the Aslan Empire's military. Every member was equivalent to 100 elsewhere. It reported directly to the royalty and was personally commanded by the Aslan Emperor. Meticulous, strong, wise, and united. Their sacrifices represented the great people of Aslan. There was no doubt that the debut of the princess was a huge matter. The political implication was that she was to start learning how to manage her country. The most important figures in the Milky Way alliance were gathered in the Aslan capital, Monta Ellis. Aina was the most beautiful girl in the universe today. The whole palace was bustling with activity. Hundreds of palace workers were busying with smiles on their faces. In Aslan, the royal family's pride was not to be undermined. Every citizen genuinely respected the royalty. This was closely related to the history of the founding of the Aslan Empire. In the process of becoming the peak of the Milky Way, the royal family played an extremely important role. It was glory and honor built up step by step. Although it was full of activities outside, there were only 2 people in the royal princess's room. Naturally, only one person was able to keep the princess company at this point. Her younger sister, Aslan Lin Huiyan. Aina was not at all in the mood to prepare for her debut. She was only concerned with finding out how Wang Jun was doing from Huiyan. Lin Huiyan couldn't help that Wang Jun was a decent young man. It was a pity that even if he were from Aslan, he would still be too far off to be able to match up with her cousin. Let alone the fact that he was from Earth. Huiyan had thought that her cousin would have calmed down after so long, but she was still clinging on to it tightly. He's a fine person, and he's doing very well, sister. I heard that he has accomplished some things in space physics. Lin Huiyan was also dressed like a beautiful little swan. Her style was different from Aina's, and no matter where she went, it was impossible to neglect her presence. Aina smiled. I know he's great. She even showed signs of admiration. Aina squeezed her darling sister's cheeks. You little imp, lecturing me, wait till you find someone you like, then you'll understand. Lin Huiyan smiled. Sister, I will pick the right person right from the start. Aina laughed. Some things are just fated, they can't be helped. Lin Huiyan pouted. I shall not argue with you. I've done what you wanted me to. He's doing very well, and he's got pretty girls by his side. You needn't worry about him. You'll have more than enough to worry about after your debut. Yi Zissou is a good girl. Aina chuckled. Huiyan found herself speechless. Was she complimenting her rival? Sister, how are you so confident? All right, even if you persevere and Wang Jun does not fall for others, do you think that he wouldn't back down, wouldn't feel inferior if faced with such pressure? He belongs on Earth. He has not seen the world outside. Only when you walk out of your own world will you know how big the world really is and how some people and things just are not within your reach, Lin Huiyan said, in all seriousness. Aina looked at the little girl trying to act like an adult and couldn't hold her laughter back. Sister, here I am, worried about you. How could you laugh? HMPH, I will not care for you anymore. Aina hugged Huiyan. My darling, darling little sister, I am not laughing at you. You've seen him with your own eyes, do you think he'd back down? Lin Huiyan was dumbfounded. That man did seem to be born numb and confident. He was uninterested in many things. He seemed like a broad stroke of a person. I'm ignoring you. Have you found your dance partner? All the dashing young men on Aslan are waiting for good luck to befall them. Lin Huiyan teased, if there are handsome ones, remember to save me a few to choose at my own debut. You imp, how dare you tease me? The ball is cancelled, Aina replied. Huiyan gaped, you've got to be kidding. You're breaking the hearts of countless handsome men. Aina didn't think much of it. Only one person is fit to be my partner. He's not here, and I will not dance with anybody but him. Lin Huiyan could really sense her sister's perseverance, but she still could not understand what had gotten into Aina. It was just a little bit of talent and a little bit of genius in science. It was nothing in Aslan. Aina watched as Lin Weyan tried to figure it out. She reached out and patted Weyan on the head. This little girl had a greater gene potential than her and she was more intelligent than anyone else, but some things just could not be understood using cleverness. You'll get it when you meet you Mr. Right someday. The whole debut began with the military inspection in space, and then the inspection of the Golden Mecha Corps in Monte Ellis, and finally, ending in the palace. Tens of thousands of TV channels broadcasted the grand event live in the Milky Way. There were plenty of royal families in the galaxy, but most of them were ceremonial. There were very few royalties that had the same absolute ruling power as Aslan's royal family. The whole city of Monte Ellis was celebrating. In space, the royal fleet was lined up according to their types and ranks. It was a magnificent sight. The Aslan Empire put their best and most technologically advanced Titan Systems galactic battleship. It was co-created by the Atlantis Republic, and it could be described as the strongest battleship in the galaxy. The princess rode on Battleship Number 1. A Titan-class Rune Galaxy battleship. A huge symbol of 3 golden spears crossing shimmered in space. On board the battleship, soldiers were lined up, row after row after row, receiving inspection by the princess underneath the energy shield. And every time a battleship passed by, the soldiers would stand at attention, put their hands on their chests, and shout, "Glory to Aslan! Glory to Aslan!" This was every Aslanian's pride. In the battleship, Weyan watched on quietly, following behind her and accompanying her through the process. There was one thing she saw more clearly than Aina did. A ceremony was not merely a procedure. A ceremony could change a person's life. Having undergone such a ceremony, the weight on Aina's shoulders were heavier than ever. The inspection around Aslan came to an end. Bright, colorful symbols were projected around the Titan galactic battleships. In an instant, the battleships disappeared. Aslan had shown what they were capable of doing, and it was enough to put every nation in awe. In the next instant, Aina had boarded the magnetic vehicle to inspect the Golden Mecha Corps. Here, every warrior was Aslan's pride. Neat rows of mecha troops, sharp, uniform marches, and a "Glory to Aslan" so loud that it rang through the whole sky. The laser guns were pointed at the skies. Not a single one was out of place. The uniformed, strong military force could scare off anyone with ill intentions. Aslan, the strongest, mid-air, mech warriors flew across. One by one, they came into a vibrant formation. Aslan's strength was its flawlessness. This alone was enough to awe any viewer out there and leave a vivid impression. Wang Jun looked on quietly, smiling to himself. He was proud of Aina, proud of the person he adored. Yao Ailun, Chen Shu, and Zhang Shan joined him. The 4 of them watched in silence, with their eyes staring widely. "Damn, that's too much. A troop like that can roll any other troops right flat into the ground," Chen Shu gaped. Not just that. With top-notch equipment and almost robot-like perseverance, no one would ever want to battle Aslan. These people are all crazy. They'd bring people down with them even if they're on their deathbeds. And in the history of Aslan, the word surrender simply doesn't exist. Yao Ailun exclaimed. It was something baffling. No words could describe the pride the people of Aslan had, but they were, undoubtedly, strong. It's hard to believe that the first princess in the Milky Way visited Beijing. It's one of the biggest regrets in life that I didn't get to see her in person. Here it comes. Here it comes. Aina had to physically appear for the inspection of ground troops. She donned a long, snow-white dress and wore a golden tiara. It was a simple look, without any diamonds or accessories. This was the princess of Aslan. There was no need for anything else. Aina held a silver staff with 3 crossed spearheads. The king had a similar staff. This symbolized that from now on, Aina was going to begin steering the Aslan Empire as the second in power. The 4 friends were completely astounded. She's simply a goddess. Chen Shu's jaws dropped to the ground. Wherever Aina went, the row of mech warriors would bow to her and then, all at once, kneel and pay their highest respects to their princess. From now on, they were to fight to protect their princess, even if it meant sacrificing their lives. The military inspection ended, and the vehicle drove into the city. Monte Ellis, one of the busiest cities in the whole of the Milky Way. On this special day, everyone behaved in an orderly manner. Everything had to give way to the princess's debut, but there was no need for the police or any enforcement to keep things in order. Here, everything came from the people themselves. Long live Princess! Long live Princess! The people cheered, burning with passion. The palace was filled with guests. Tens of thousands of people came to attend the event. They were all rulers and governors who came from all over the galaxy, and that included the core characters from Aslan. As the camera cut and the scene changed, people in the dorm expressed their surprise and awe. There was indeed too many things worth learning from Aslan. Every detail was done to perfection. It was not just room 007 watching. Everybody else was doing the same. No matter what, every girl had a dream close to their heart. Every dream like Aslan. Sigh, such a glamorous event is once in a lifetime, it's worth dying for. And May was incredibly envious. Author's note. Listen to the song My Heart Will Go On when reading this chapter. People are differentiated by their birth. This is life. Du Ching Ching sighed. There are so many handsome guys there, this atmosphere, this is truly. Looking at the numerous youths in Aslan, if any one of them was placed one on Earth, they would no doubt be among the most handsome. And May sighed in her heart. Although Tyrant Su could be considered decent, compared to these Aslan youth, he wasn't much. Females were emotional creatures, so they were easily affected by the environment and the atmosphere. Yi Zixu just quietly observed the girl. Her heart felt slightly relieved. The more outstanding Aina was, the further away Wang Zheng would be compared to her. As a result, she would be able to win his heart. She did not envy Aina. It was hard to know who would be the happy or fortunate one in the future. Only she knew, regardless of what was said, that she was the only one that could be with Wang Zheng, to fight by his side. Aina could only stay in the faraway Aslan. Perhaps Aina had already forgotten about Wang Zheng. Her first love was to be abandoned and turned into a beautiful memory. I can't wait to see what tonight's ball will be like. Who will be the luckiest man in the entire universe? He will definitely be the most handsome one. I have a feeling it could be the Prince of Atlantis. Furthermore, Atlantis and Aslan possess strong ties, and May said passionately. The Atlanteans were people who had left Earth tens of thousands of years ago. As mankind explored the stars, they encountered numerous aliens and gradually their customs and culture were eroded. Although it was a big issue at the start, people got used to it. The Atlanteans were special. Their skills in science and technology were unparalleled. They were also exceptionally powerful as an empire. However, the two empires did not engage in conflict. Perhaps it was because they had the same ancestors. Perhaps it was due to the Atlanteans' culture. They had entered the Milky Way Alliance but had chosen to remain neutral. Whenever the Milky Way Alliance had engaged in war, the enemies naturally steered away from the Atlantean Empire. Even the strongest armies had to consider the cost of attacking the Atlanteans. Even if they won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Although the Atlanteans were strong, they only had about 90 million people. Against a human wave, they would be unable to sustain for long. The truth was that mankind could now take the position of being the most expansive and populous race in the Milky Way galaxy, replacing the Zerg tribe. Possessing unparalleled reproductive abilities and culture, this was the glorious mankind. Aliens with superior technology also faced the dilemma of assimilation. However, once they understood the military might and the sheer numbers of man, they were willing to enter the Milky Way Alliance. Once the Atlantean prince was brought up, the girl's eyes lit up. That is art. However, when it came to art, that was one thing that the Atlanteans did not back down on. Currently, in the Milky Way's antiques and art markets, the most anticipated pieces with the highest values usually came from Earth of Atlantis. Atlanteans were from Earth. However, they possessed slight differences from the human race. They had the ability to both live in water and on land. They had handsome and beautiful appearances and they looked perfect. They possessed the ability to evolve their genes and adapt to the situation. They were strong-spirited and were technologically advanced. However, the Atlanteans did possess a problem. They were arrogant. In the Milky Way Alliance, there were few countries that the Atlanteans were willing to deal with. Being able to gain their recognition was not easy. For Aina's coming-of-age ceremony, the Prince and Princess of Atlantis had arrived. It was a show of their sincerity. As the ceremony was broadcast on the Skylink, as the camera lens panned through the guests, Every scene was punctuated with shouts of joy and celebration. There were plenty of famous people and celebrities. There was no way an ordinary person could appear in the crowd. Throughout the Milky Way were numerous starstruck individuals. Those who loved fashion could not miss out on this ceremony. Everything that appeared here would definitely become the next popular trend the next day. Of course, it has to be said that behind the banquet hid the influence of numerous fashion designers. The grandness of the palace did not have to be mentioned. This represented the image of the empire. Regardless of whom saw it, they could only stare at it wordlessly. Even the carpet was made from the hairs of the long-haired elephant from the Montana Star. It was rumored that 1 square meter cost $1 million. Looking at the length of the carpet, it would definitely cost a mountain's worth of gold. The financial power of the empire was unparalleled. Hey, isn't that Lin Weyan? Why is she here? Lin Weyan had been extremely popular recently. However, there were even more famous celebrities around, and she mostly appealed to the youth only. She did not seem to have the qualifications to attend. It was then where people realized that Lin Weyan was not wearing her performance attire but rather, the clothes of a princess. On her head she wore a beautiful, diamond crown. Could it be? Lin Weyan's fans burst into uproar. Could it be that she was an Islanian princess? It was rumored that Aslan also had a low-profile little princess. For a moment, Weyan's position in everyone's hearts soared. A popular singer and a Islanian princess who loved to sing. These were two completely different ideas. This was just crazy. Frankly, Weyan had not planned to hide her identity. Furthermore, it was her sister's coming-of-age ceremony, so she had to participate. From the moment Aina had stepped into the palace, she had started to follow the procedure according to Aslan's tradition. Step by step she walked. Although it was cumbersome, every step taken possessed historical significance. She had to follow tradition until the empress changed her crown. The crown for a princess before she had come of age and after was different. Fierce applause and cheers could be heard all around her. This was without a doubt a festival. It was a celebration for the country. However, what was strange was that all the balls had been cancelled. This was supposed to be the high point of the princess's coming-of-age ceremony. Was it supposed to end here? The lights dimmed and music began to play. Was someone going to sing? At this point, who had the qualifications to stand on stage? Indeed, there was one person. When the singer came out, everyone's suspicions were confirmed. It was Aslan's second princess, Lin Weyan. No one else was sufficiently qualified. A melodious melody was heard. However, was this a new song? Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you, my heart throbs for you. Traveling through endless space, braving all winds, entering my dreams, your heart has never changed. You and me, we don't speak, but your love still sails through the skies, free like the wind. You let me feel worry-free and will forever be my love. Just love at first sight, two hearts connected into something eternal. The entire audience could only hear Lin Weyan's voice, yet this song was being broadcasted throughout the Milky Way. Everyone was enthralled. When the singing reached a crescendo, everyone's hearts trembled. It was as though they were remembering their own experiences of love. Under the stars we tightly hugged. Regardless of whether we will ever reunite, my heart will forever hope for you. When the song finished, the palace was silent. Everyone who heard this song was lost in their own memories. A brief moment later, the palace resounded with claps. No one knew that in such a short amount of time, Lin Weyan's song had once again resonated with the people. In War of the Blind, Lin Weyan had demonstrated fearsome talent. She had begun to explore the beauty of human nature. Who would have known that this song would have been about love? Weyan curtsied and faced the Empress and Aina. This song is called, My Heart Will Go On. I wish older sister all the best. At this point, no one remembered the banquet anymore. Aslan's princess was going to move the world. Wonderful. This song is too beautiful. God, why am I not from Aslan? Yao Ailun murmured. *CK, this song has to be downloaded. It's too moving. Brother Wang, what do you think? Wang Jung was finally awakened from the music. His instincts were telling him that this was not written by Weyan. She was talented, but she did not have these feelings. Hence, she could not have written it. Furthermore, the title was what Aina had said before she left, My Heart Will Go On. The situation at the female dormitory was crazier than at the boys' dormitory. The song was supremely beautiful and was love at first sight. This was truly a fairy tale. Every girl loved this sort of fairy tale. Only Yi Zisoo was speechless. I can't believe Wei has such abilities. How did she have such deep feelings? Du Qingqing sighed. This was not written by Lin Weiyan, Yi Zisoo said. Ah, it can't be. Lin Weiyan writes all her songs. She doesn't sing other people's songs. Perhaps her sister does not count, Yi Zisoo said faintly. Regardless, Aslan's two stars shook the Milky Way. The song swept through all the mainstream music lists and topped them all. It was unprecedented. When Weiyan's small body had belted such high notes, even the blind had the strength to open their eyes. The song's lyrics were written by Aina Aslan. When the sisters cooperated, no one was their match. At this point, Wang Jun could not sleep. He found Yan Xiaoshu and the two spent the whole night drinking. The two of them did not speak but merely drank cup after cup as wine and song took them. Yan Xiaoshu was extremely touched. Regardless of what happened, being able to experience such romance was worth it. The next day, almost all the headlines were talking about the ceremony. It has to be said that Aslan had once again swept the headlines, hogging the spotlight. This pair of sisters had the ability to make people worship them. Aina's first work with Weiyan had reached the peak. It looked as though the first princess also possessed artistic talent. This was the opinion of numerous individuals. It could be said to be even greater than Weiyan's. However, as the first princess, she could not act like Weiyan, yet people's evaluation of her only soared. Aina was truly the epitome of perfection. After this situation, Weiyan was no longer the innocent singer. There was no choice. Her status was incomparable, and even if Weiyan did not care for it, her fanbase had increased by over 5 times and was still growing. Her song, My Heart Will Go On, had swept through the Milky Way and become the king. This was something even Weiyan could not have imagined. Frankly, she did not believe that her singing was better than Aina's. Even if the song was the same, she lacked the emotion. She never had this feeling before. However, when Aina wrote the song and sang it on its own, even Weiyan was drowned by the emotions. In fact, she even envied Aina. Separated by love, it was truly too romantic and outrageous. She did not know where her sister had gained such courage. As she lightly whistled the song, Weiyan tried to reminisce the feeling she had. She pursued perfection. She had to perform this song as it was supposed to be performed. In the classroom, the topic of everyone's discussion was the two beautiful princesses and that beautiful song. Everyone was asking if Princess Aina already had someone in her heart. The song was written by Aina, but her sister was the one who sung it. She had also cancelled the ball. Was it a coincidence? Although the royal family did not react, it was unable to the gossip from spreading like a blaze. Who was it that could attract Princess Aina? My guess is it's the Atlantean prince. Shay, that bamboo pole? This brother's leg could flatten him. I heard that the speaker's son is also chasing Princess Aina. F*CK, that drunkard. To H*LL with him. It can't be. I heard that that person is very ferocious. He's a minotaur. My goddess Weiyan is the best. I am going to listen to her songs every day from now on and think of her when I go to sleep. Stop it. Don't defile my female goddess. How dare you? Do you want to fight? Let's go. I'm not scared of you. Regardless of the situation was very rowdy. Yan Xiaoshu walked over and took a seat. Aren't you going to class? Asked In Mei. I have things to do. Yan Xiaoshu pointed at his skylink. The skeleton corps had been challenged to a fight. Solin's side had given out an announcement. It was the Prince of the Star Emperor Corps. The prince was not interested in a single combat fight but rather a group fight. The prince was Earth region's strongest member of royalty. At the moment, he was the third best player. Frankly, when one was in the top 10, their skills were about the same. Differences in rank were due to how often they participated in competitions and played. The prince and his Star Emperor Corps, his professional team, were undoubtedly the best of Earth's players. Their individual skill was unparalleled and their teamwork was even more terrifying. The prince wanted to challenge the Skeleton Corps to a 3-on-3 squad battle. This struck at the Skeleton Corps' weak spot. Yan Xiaoshu did not care much for individual fights. It didn't matter if he was a king or a peasant, the situation could be solved without problem. However, in a 3-on-3 match, especially since the prince's squad was filled with true elites who complemented each other, they played on a professional level. When a team worked together well, they were greater than the sum of their parts. Similarly, the reverse held true. Boss, the Skeleton Corp's 3 most impressive players are Rainbow, Wild King, and Changsun. However, Changsun has recently gone for treatment, so only Rainbow and Wild King are left. However, the two of them will not be able to beat these experts alone. Yan Xiaoshu felt slightly hesitant, however, if they did not accept, the opponents would definitely humiliate them. Wang Zheng laughed. Of course we battle. When was there a time where they could not fight? A man had to have confidence. Ana's confidence in him had made Wang Zheng fearless. Let all these strong opponents come, only then could one become stronger. Wang Zheng's strength had inadvertently affected Yan Xiaoshu. Even Tyrant Su seemed supremely tyrannical. He had more and more faith in himself. The words these two brothers shared echoed in their ears. They would dominate the Milky Way. The Star Emperor Corps were filled with experts. Their strongest player was known as all-powerful. At the highest level of professional competitions, he had a win rate of 80%. His team could be said to be on the highest level of Earth's teams. Such an amazing team was challenging a group of amateurs. It had truly been out of Solin's expectations. It was as Solin had said, he was only worried that there would be no opponents and not that he feared the opponents. However, he had to be careful. There were too many variables in a group fight. Hence he had analyzed the prince's video recordings. Based on the replays, among the top 10 players, 2 were part of the prince's Star Emperor Corps. The notification for battle had already been issued. Star Emperor Corps vs Skeleton Corps. Star Emperor members, Prince, Hammer, Lucky. Skeleton members, Skeleton, Rainbow, Wild King. For single or random matches, there was not much difference when comparing between players of the diamond rank. However, when it came to professional teams fighting against amateur teams, even with the same skilled players, the professional teams would beat the opponent senseless. When the players saw the battle notification, they all had the same feeling. One should fight when it was difficult. If it was not difficult, then one had to create a challenge for themselves. Rainbow was a platinum-ranked player at his best. Wild King was slightly better and was a diamond-ranked player. However, this was when it came to solo fights. Group battles were on a completely different level. It required professional training and could not merely be completed in just a few days. This was especially important when it came to communicating without words. This was only something that could be trained after a long period of time as a group. The Skeleton Corps was shocked by the news. They were both excited and worried. Such an opportunity did not come often. However, the pressure to win was extremely stifling. As a diamond-ranked player, Wild King had had the opportunity to engage in such a match before. He was beaten so badly that he wet his pants. Although he was skilled as an individual, he did not have the ability to fight as a cohesive team. Rainbow felt extremely passionate towards this opportunity. This was in contrast to Wild King, who seemed extremely cautious. The two of them were extremely worried they would pull Skeleton down. The prince was extremely vicious. He was completely confident that he would take down those 2 helpers and then engage in a 3vs1. Prince was evenly matched when compared to Skeleton in a 1-on-1. With 2 additional helpers, F***CK, this was just a trap for Skeleton. In the Chronos manner, Lear, who had heard the news, nodded his head. His previous defeat did not count for much. This is because no one knew who Magical Bird truly was. However, Lear clearly knew. He was the one who had taken control of Magical Bird. He could easily set up another fight, yet something held him back. However, that was dumb. He was not a mere foot soldier. He was a commander, a king. Even if there were people better than him, he would not put himself in harm's way. He would come up with a strategy and force the opponent into a situation where he would wish for his own death. It was better to be cunning than brutish. He had made a mistake. He would not do it again. If he did, he would not be known as a Chronos. Now that he was back on track, Lear felt extremely comfortable. Being able to be in control felt extremely satisfying. For people like the prince, they might be considered to be idols in the eyes of the common man. However, to him, The prince was no more than a pawn. He was disposable. Lear truly wanted to see how Skeleton would react to this situation. The stronger he was and the more tenacious Skeleton was, the more interesting this would be. A king could only be crowned by laying a strong foundation by beating each opponent. Last-minute preparations would not be sufficient for the fight. Rainbow and Wild King had competed against each other before. However, fighting against professionals was completely different. Also, would Skeleton continue using the War God #1 in a group fight? Although this was a stereotype, in high-level group battles, everyone's shield energy had to be calculated properly. At a critical moment, teammates would have to take hits for one another and disperse the damage taken. The War God #1 did not possess any energy shields, so he would be handicapping himself from the start. From another point of view, Rainbow and Skeleton were placed under even more stress as they had more things to consider. All of these were considered in Lear's calculations. If Skeleton does not use the War God #1, he will lose his uniqueness and will no longer be interesting. However, if he does, the difficulty of winning will be too great. Even if he was a piece of *T, would he not think about his teammates? There was no easy answer to this. However, Lear still gave the opponent a 60% chance of winning. This was as he had left the choice of battlefield to the opponent. If he was allowed to act flagrantly, the opponent would not even have this discretion to choose. After just half a day of the message spreading, the CT forums were bustling with activity. By evening, a large number of players had appeared. Previously, there were only players from the Asian region. Now, there were plenty from other regions. At a glance, it could be seen that some were from the moon. The previous battle between Skeleton and Lady Stormsword had left a very deep impression on them. In the CT headquarters, Solon watched the screen with a cigar in hand. The numbers on the screen left one extremely nervous. The total number of viewers had exceeded 2 million. This was absolutely crazy. This was truly the peak of amateur competitions. Lin Weyan's Blind War has led the Skeleton Corps to become extremely famous and attractive. It is a pity the Blind General is unable to be here. Blind General? You mean Changsun? The three generals of the Skeleton Corps. Little Red Noob Rainbow, Blind General Changsun, Wild Scout Wild King. These are the titles given by the players, the administrative personnel replied. Solon nodded his head. The Blind General is the strongest, however, he is unable to do battle. Although Rainbow's rank might not be high, his abilities are extremely strong. I heard that he is an expert in the SWAT team. Wild King is also a pretty strong player in the American region's diamond ranks. But boss, the opponent is the prince and his grand generals. They are professionals, they are undefeated even amongst pros. How can they face off against amateurs? Solon's staff was nervous. This plan had indeed attracted the attention of numerous people, however, they had created trouble for themselves. The original plan was for Prince and Skeleton to face off against each other alone. Who would have known that the prince would raise such a proposition? Worst of all, Solon had accepted. You are worried about Skeleton's ability to work as a team? Solon smiled as he replied. His staff nodded their heads. It was not just them who were worried, the entire discussion forums were furiously debating about this. In a one-on-one fight, regardless of the opponent, Skeleton would be able to put up a fight. However, in a group battle, this was a completely different situation. Furthermore, the Skeleton Corps had let out that the three of them had never fought together before. How could they compare with Prince's team, who had fought together for hundreds of battles? Although they had fought in other group battles before when they queued alone, such 5 vs 5 battles were at an elementary level. Would Student Skeleton be able to create another legend? The discussion forums had labeled Skeleton as a fellow student. This was because when people voted for what they thought Skeleton was, 80% of the players thought that he was a student. However, some felt that he was a military school student, and there were some who felt that he was just a hardcore gamer. After much discussion, people had gotten used to addressing him as such. However, in the Skeleton Corps, the members were used to addressing Skeleton as a god. This was because they hoped he would create another miracle. Even before the battle began, the audience members had given Rainbow and Wild King a lot of pressure. Rainbow and Wild King were senior players, so they were extremely clear of the prince's abilities. Even in their dreams they did not imagine a day where they would fight against such an opponent. Ever since they had entered the Skeleton Corps, Wild King and Rainbow's solo skills had improved. They wanted to give the Skeleton Corps a breath of fresh air. Rainbow had entered the top of the Platinum rank and was almost a Diamond ranked player. Wild King continued to maintain his Diamond 1 rank. The next step would be extremely hard. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun were even more nervous. They were constantly coming up with plans. The fact was that the prince did not have many secrets. There were many videos of their fights, especially of their teamwork, and it was extremely scary. A player of the king rank supported by 2 diamond-ranked players. It could only be described as terrifying. It was said that their teamwork could place them in the top 10 teams of Earth. Rainbow, Tempest Condor, Ozlon, Luo tracking system, Beam Saber. Wild King, Light Cavalry Type D, Ozlon, MP5 Laser Rifle, Beam Saber. Skeleton, War God Number 1, Default, Prince, War Emperor Type 5, Mars, War Emperor's Electric Halberd. Lucky, Ice Falcon 9th Gen, Earth, 0 Degree Laser Rifle. Hammer, Gold Guardian, Moon, Hammer Auxiliary System. This was the Star Emperor Corps' full lineup. Although the competition would start soon, the commentators had already started talking. Ah, comrade old dear, your clothes today look celebratory. Did you win the lottery? Did you get a girlfriend? Bubbly Foam mocked. Today's dear dressed extremely festively. Hee, today is the last day I will be commentating on Skeleton's battles. Of course I have to dress for the occasion. Oh, comrade old dear, why are you so sure about this? Bubbly Foam smiled. Old dear admitted that he did act quite rashly, however, he let out a faint smile. The opponent this time is completely different. I think everyone understands. With the Star Prince team on red and the Skeleton Corps on blue, both are extremely famous corps. However, when it comes to skill, I think even the audience has their own opinions. Why don't we let the audience vote for who they think will win? Old dear pressed a button and a voting interface popped up. 83% of the audience felt that the Princess Star Prince team would win. The Skeleton team were the typical folk heroes. They had a lot of support. However, the Star Prince team was full of professional celebrities. Furthermore, they had a long and distinguished record. The prince's status did not even have to be explained. Even on Earth, he had over 1 million fans. It was a case of a pagan god fighting against the established gods. At this point in time, the hype for the Skeleton Corps was extremely high. However, looking from a broader point of view, it could be seen that they still had a large distance to go before reaching the level of the Star Prince team. Dear student Skeleton has constructed many miracles. I hope that it will happen again, Bubbly Foam said determinedly. Old dear laughed. Little Bubbly, I heard that you are dating the Skeleton Corps Rainbow, is that true? Bubbly Foam gave a slight smile. We are friends. Kiki, as a commentator, I would advise you to aim a little higher. A diamond-ranked player is the lowest you should go, old dear chided. This is my own problem. Furthermore, I believe the Skeleton team will definitely win. In this case, you can watch and learn. Dear audience members, you might not be familiar with the situation. Let me introduce the teams. From a professional standpoint, old dear was very skilled. However, when it came to his knowledge of the game, it was extremely complete. Furthermore, he had come prepared this time. The Star Prince team had a string of glorious results, especially because the prince had been in top form recently. In professional battles, he had achieved a string of 8 victories. It was in the top 3 longest streaks for the year. The prince was the pearl of the professional players. Without saying, Hammer and Lucky were also specially picked by the prince. They were not concerned with their CT rankings. However, in professional competitions, Lucky was the team's main sniper, while Hammer was the support player with keen insight. He was CT's number 1 support player. However, after joining a professional team, his CT playtime had reduced drastically, hence, he was only ranked at the top of the diamond ranks. If these team members wanted to rush into the king rankings, they would be unstoppable. However, to professional players, other than a few captains, the rest of them used CT as a form of practice and relaxation. They would not seek a high rank. What was most important was gaining victory during competitions. Professional and amateur players would constantly compete together. This was mostly due to the workings of the CT company. However, such a serious match was rarely seen. In professional competitions, support mecha were often used. Some players were in charge of detecting enemies and making the appropriate judgment. They even had to defend themselves from attacks. They would fill up the gaps in the battle line and would even have to sacrifice themselves. Hence, for the sake of victory, everything had to be done. In such competitions, the mecha used were of a higher caliber and were outfitted with numerous equipment. These also had to be countered with support mecha. The tyrannical magnetic guardian was one such mech. However, the requirements of amateur players were not as stringent. This was also one of the reasons why the Star Prince team were the favored winners. Excitement and hype was just that. Those who were logical all knew that the result of this competition was clear. What was important was if the process would be exciting. Within this short span of time, the people who favored Star Prince team's victory had increased by another 2%. It was impossible. Old Deer had never possessed as much confidence as he had today. He was very familiar with the Prince and the Star Prince team. He had commentated numerous competitions they had participated in. Now let us talk with the Prince and hear his opinions on the match. Not every commentator would be able to interview the Prince. Hello, Prince. This is Old Deer. I am very curious, why were you so interested in such a competition? On the screen appeared the Prince. The Prince gave a wry smile. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone for their support. I had watched Skeleton's fights previously and they were very exciting. He has already reached the level of a professional player. I would like to use this competition to see his performance in a group battle. Ah, so that's the reason. This is extremely high praise for Skeleton. However, it looks as though he has chosen to stand out. He chose to use the War God #1 and rejected working as a team. Comrade Old Deer laughed. As a loyal fan of the Star Prince team, I hope that the Skeleton team is not too scared. Prince also gave an inadvertent smile. This Old Deer was a big mouth in the commentator circle. Once again he had proved his reputation right. Let us exchange pointers. The discussion forum was extremely heated. Originally, they were excited about the upcoming match. However, now they had been thrown into disarray by Old Deer's words. This guy was not even fearful of the world falling into chaos. The brothers and sisters of the Skeleton Corps were not to be trifled with. They would naturally show their true colors when dealing with Old Deer. Although the Prince seemed to take this competition pretty lightly, it was not wrong of him to feel that way. He had the skills to do so. Teamwork was not created by merely talking about it. Teamwork would allow one to conquer the heavens, it would allow one to surpass their individual limits. Rainbow and Wild King had also gone online. The two of them had a level of tacit understanding between them, however, they did not possess much confidence. Rainbow was in charge of sniping for this round and had to face off against Lucky, however, he did not possess any hope in beating Lucky. He had watched him compete often. That ability to remain calm even in dangerous situations was truly heaven-defying. Wild King had it even worse. Most scout players who entered the professional circuit chose to use support mecha, a jack of all trades. Additionally, Wild King had once faced off against Hammer. At that point, Wild King was extremely arrogant. His personality was exceptionally reckless to begin with. He had felt that his ability was exceptional. So what if Hammer was a professional player? He would crush him. However, he was truly too arrogant. When he faced off against Hammer, he had faced off against him in the Dark World map. He was completely annihilated, beaten to a point that even his mother would not recognize him. It was a massive blow to his confidence then. Although he had lost badly, the audience did not think much of it. It was simple. All of them felt that losing to a professional player was normal. Even being annihilated didn't seem out of the ordinary. However, in Wild King's heart, it was a significant blow to his confidence. It was completely different compared to the battle with Skeleton. After the battle with Skeleton, Wild King had sought to improve himself. Hence, he had entered the Skeleton Corps. However, the battle with Hammer was just something he wanted to forget. However, people in the same river would meet each other eventually while they drift. Yet he did not expect it to happen so soon. After the interview with the Prince, numerous CT players wanted an interview with Hammer and Lucky. Lucky was only interested in being interviewed by beauties. This fellow was a playboy. It was in contrast to his calmness in game. When it came to beauties interviewing him, he would brag endlessly and would even stay in contact with the interviewers. Brother Lucky, what do you think your chances of winning are? Lucky couldn't help but laugh. It doesn't matter. Any of us can take all three of them on at the same time. Do you think that this is for real? Nah, this is just a game. There's no need to be serious. On the other side, a male interviewer asked Hammer, player Hammer, what do you think about these three? Do you feel that they can win? Hammer shook his head. No opinion. Have you seen him fight before? Nope. Do you know who he is? Don't know. His replies were all very blunt. However, from what we know, you actually fought against Wild King before. At that point, he had just entered the diamond ranks. Don't remember. Wild King tightly clenched his fist. Failing was not the worst. What was worse was that the opponent did not even remember him. Wang Zheng and Yan Xiaoshu had finally come online. They were highly anticipating the upcoming battle. This was because up until now, regardless of whether it was in real life or in the skeleton core, they had never had any form of coordination. Up till now, even the battle plan had not been decided on. Would they fight on their own? Would they fight head-on and win like gods? Or would they bunker down? Online opinions had divided into two factions. However, the prince's side had the upper hand. Perhaps there was a lot of doubt whether they could win. Furthermore, there had been a lot of precedents for this. Even Yao Ailun and Chen Shu were extremely worried. They couldn't help but to watch the prince's video replays seriously. Currently, the prince's team's replays were the most watched on Earth. This was something that the prince did not imagine. Usually, he was only in the top 10. However, because of this small matter, he had catapulted to the top. It could be considered to be the silver lining in this cloud. Yao Ailun was extremely angry at these numbers. What in the world? They are challenging us. Why are they on top? Chen Shu shook his head. Brother Ailun, you are too impatient. In a moment, after we win, we will be at the top. Even if we are not at the top, they will lose their position. Boss, the number of viewers has exceeded 2.37 million, it is still increasing steadily. Listening to the warnings of his staff, Solon nodded his head solemnly. Had he become addicted to taking risks? At the very least, he still looked to be the same in the eyes of his staff. Since Skeleton had been singled out, he should at least have made it a solo battle. Even if the risk of losing was extremely high, it would not be as risky as the current situation. However, now it was too late, as he had chosen a group fight and it was even against a strong team. Winning would be great, but was it necessary to take such a big risk? Whether it was worth it or not didn't matter anymore. The only thing he could do now was wait. Boss, do we really not need to come up with any tactics? Yao Ailun and Chen Shu are experts in this field. Yan Xiaoshu was slightly worried. The opponent was just too strong. He had watched live streams of the prince, and the prince crushed his opponents with ease in a smooth and flowing fashion. Furthermore, he used a halberd that possessed frightening momentum when it was swung. When the three of them worked together, they seemed absolutely invincible. We will react on the spot. Last-minute tactics are quite meaningless too. Wang Zheng smiled. Now, there is no need to worry. I have already begun preparations. After entering CT, Wang Zheng began to warm up. Rainbow and Wild King also came along. As teammates, they had to make some preparations. However, they still felt uneasy. Most importantly, they did not want to be the reason for their team's loss. Skeleton, what tactics do you have in mind? We will wholeheartedly support you, Rainbow said. Just fight normally. Just do the best you can, Wang Zheng replied. Rainbow and Wild King were dazed at his words. Do the best they can? They would definitely lose. However, the two of them did not say much. Truthfully, they could only play normally. Although it didn't feel right, Skeleton himself didn't have any extra preparations either. We will definitely win, Wang Zheng said, after feeling that his teammates did not seem too confident. Yes, we will definitely win, Wild King said. D*MN. People were dying all over the world. What was there to be scared about? Just do his best. He would definitely leave a lasting impression on Hammer. If he was defeated twice with any recollection of him, what was the point of living anymore? Rainbow couldn't help but nod his head. He wasn't an airhead. There was no point fooling himself. This was an extremely difficult situation. If not for Bubbly Foam's support, he would not want to humiliate himself. It was because Bubbly Foam was extremely well inclined towards the skeleton core that she had managed to meet Rainbow. Dear student Rainbow had grasped the opportunity tightly, and they actually had feelings for each other. He was determined not to be humiliated. Even if he was to lose, he would definitely go out in style and fight for the skeleton's corpse honor. Wild King was more of a dolt. If he chose not to think about it, he would not. However, it was not so simple for Rainbow. At this point, a message was received on his Skylink. It was from Bubbly Foam. "Little red noob, you can do it. If you win, I will treat you to dinner," sounded Bubbly Foam's sweet voice. Bang! Little red noob's universe had just exploded. For the sake of a date, Granny's leg, he would do it. Although what would happen inside a battle could not be predicted, their spirit for battle had been aroused. Both teams had arrived. The battle was going to start. Map choice. Random, Crazy Lay's Wailing Pond. When this map was chosen, all of the members of the Skeleton Corps had their hopes drenched slightly. Wailing Lay's Pond was a 3vs3 map. This map was not considered to be complex. It was set on Earth, but the problem was that to win this map, one didn't have to destroy all their opponents. Rather, it was to destroy the opponent's fort. Usually, just defeating the opponent was enough. The enemy's fort would then self-destruct. However, this was a professional player's map. Surrounding each team's fortress was a minefield. Mecha would have to pass through the minefield to assault the fort. Without saying, Hammer was an expert at this. Even if he was taken out, his hammer system could be used by his teammates, preventing the opponents from using it. In a professional team, one person on each term would be equipped to handle such a situation. Once the mecha list appeared, the audience felt disheartened. Rainbow and Wild King were shocked with their mouths agape. How could their luck be so bad? Wild King did not bring any auxiliary equipment as he was not used to it. He had not learned to use such auxiliary equipment. He was already weak, and if he did not use something he was good at, it would lead to a crippling defeat. The best case scenario would be to drag out a draw. This was the thought in most people's minds. Hello, everyone. The battle has begun. I hope you can vote for the team you support. A lucky winner will be chosen to win a mystery gift. Today's young deer was especially lively. It was as though a second wind had taken him. Both sides' mecha appeared simultaneously. This map was nothing special. There was only the minefield protecting the fort, which would test each team's capabilities. Although Hammer had auxiliary equipment equipped, minesweeping was a slow task. If they were ambushed, it would also be disastrous. They would definitely have to take the advantage in a straight-on fight. Skeleton, what should we do? They had become extremely focused. In fact, Rainbow and Wild King felt extremely excited. This was the skill of a warrior. Let us wait for them. I will act as bait. Wang Zheng did not have the intention to rush in. With their team's situation, attacking first would not be to their advantage. Piloting the war god number 1, Wang Zheng started to move forward at a steady pace. He had to choose a good ambush location. Rainbow quickly found a spot he could snipe from and Wild King lied in ambush. One watched from above, the other from below. All of them were in the war god number 1's vicinity. However, even they felt anxious for Skeleton. To be frank, this was not the first time they had engaged in such a fight. The two of them's hairs were on end. Wang Zheng's war god number 1 peered around. It didn't look like he was fighting a battle but rather admiring the scenery. On the other side, Prince grouped up with Hammer and Lucky before moving quickly. Boss, are we going to attack them directly? Haha, they are definitely laying an ambush on their side of the map. We will go over in our formation. This opponent likes to use the terrain to their advantage, so we cannot be careless. After the prince spoke, his mouth curved into a smile, demonstrating his supreme confidence. Relax, I have experienced 100 battles. They won't even be able to rock our boat, Lucky smiled. He was still extremely cocky. If they won, the compensation was extremely large. A pair of matching watches had recently caught his eye. That girl by the name of Bubbly Foam was extremely adorable. He would give her one half of the pair. Everything was according to the prince's expectations. Skeleton's team was waiting for the opponents to attack, yet was this enough? Without taking much time, Prince and his team had already entered the enemy's half of the map. They had not been obstructed at all. However, Hammer's Gold Guardian was always at attention. As the scout, he was in charge of detecting the enemies. In this aspect, the Hammer auxiliary system was extremely good at that. All of a sudden, the prince stopped. Hammer and Lucky stopped moving as well. Movement. Hammer's Hammer auxiliary system started to search for the opponent. The captain's senses were usually very sharp. The opponent did not possess a scout and hence did not interfere with the scan. On their screens, Wang Jung and his team's positions were all lit up in dark red. These are 3 noobs. They thought that this was sufficient to ambush us? How could they be so naive? Lucky couldn't help but laugh. Amateurs were amateurs. The difference in skill was just too disparate. Prince could not help but laugh as well. Even if their solo abilities were decent, this was just too disappointing. This was not the Stone Age anymore. One had to understand and utilize the equipment to succeed. On the other side, Rainbow and Wild King were silently waiting, watching the war god #1 walking up and down and worrying for him. Wild King, the opponent has a 90% chance of having spotted us already. In a moment, you should quickly assault the Gold Guardian. Do not care if you die or are wounded. You need to get him away from us. Rainbow, regardless of whatever dangerous situation you are in, you must not be concerned. Your opponent is lucky, Wang Jung said. The ground shook violently. The fight was about to start. The 5 elements increased one's ability to sense what was happening around them. Wang Jung was able to judge what was happening in the distance just by feeling the vibrations along the earth. The war god #1 was standing in the open and very quickly was spotted by the prince and his team. In a single move, Lucky and Hammer disappeared. Regardless if it was a group fight or a one-on-one battle, the prince was unworried. The group battle was not chosen by the prince. He had originally wanted a one-on-one fight. However, the CT management made a decision otherwise. He was a professional. Since they wanted a group fight, he would do so. Lucky and Hammer could treat this as a show once they deal with their opponents. The War Emperor increased in speed as it maintained its momentum, rushing towards the War God #1, revealing his position. However, the War God #1 did not stop but instead headed towards the War Emperor. On the other hand, Lucky was rushing towards Rainbow and Hammer dashed towards Wild King. Such a hunt wasn't very suspenseful. However, this was what the prince and Skeleton had wanted. The prince let out a wry smile. The War Emperor's speed suddenly increased and the mech blazed towards the War God #1 in a flash. The War God #1's alloy knife was drawn as it slashed over. Bang! The War Emperor had suddenly attacked. It was extremely difficult to utilize a halberd. However, when mastered, it possessed immense potential to kill. The prince was the best halberd user on Earth. Facing the War Emperor head-on was almost a joke. After a single collision, the War God #1 was knocked backwards. The other 2 are heading towards you guys. Once you start fighting, push the enemies towards us, Wang Jung said as he continued fighting against the War Emperor. Rainbow and Wild King were jolted awake. They were too focused and were a bit stiff. The opponent had indeed almost approached their position. Rainbow reacted immediately, but his attack hit nothing. Lucky's 0-degree rifle fired a white light which flew towards Rainbow. Rainbow quickly maneuvered his mech. The Tempest Condor was not any worse than the opponent's mech and was even stronger in certain areas. On the other side, Wild King and Hammer had already engaged in a battle with sparks flying. Hammer was not as polite and immediately proceeded to suppress Wild King. With the auxiliary support system, some of his firepower had been sacrificed and his movement had also slowed down for the purposes of equipping it. Yet Hammer was able to completely suppress Wild King. This was the confidence one had in their ability to pilot their mech. The Gold Guardian was strong in defense. Every step it took was firm and he did not rush to destroy his opponent in a single blow. Instead, he sought to slowly grind down the opponent while observing the surroundings. A scout did not possess much killing power. Although Hammer was using a support mech, it did not mean that it was offensively weak. It was just that in a team, one had to make the sacrifice when needed. He used this opportunity to polish his battle capabilities. A scout who had yet to match up to professionals would be easily crushed. On the other hand, Rainbow had encountered the same trouble. In a battle between snipers, one would have to see who was faster and more accurate. The snipers' battle was extremely cold and calculating. It was not as physically exhilarating as the others. However, it was definitely the most thrilling. Rainbow had always maintained a casual attitude when he played court. Put another way, it was a form of relaxation from the real world for him. Hence, he had always fought for the fun of it. However, facing such an opponent, he had inadvertently slipped into his serious side. On the other side, Lucky felt the same way. This calmness and confidence, it did not seem like the other side was a platinum-ranked noob. In the center of the battlefield, Skeleton and Prince had already started exchanging blows. One could easily appreciate others' battles but not know how their own would unfold. The Prince was fully known in the professional circuit. His moves were not graceful but instead practical. They were always able to strike the opponent's weak points at the crucial moments. He did not need graceful moves, it was a waste of energy. However, facing this war god number 1, the War Emperor was unable to gain any advantage at all. Compared to Hammer and Lucky, who held an advantage over their opponents, the Prince was actually at a disadvantage. With each step he took, his momentum increased and his strikes strengthened. The War Emperor's electric halberd paved the way forward, each blow having the force to decimate his opponent. However, Skeleton's War God number 1 skillfully parried each blow. Other than a few frontal clashes, Skeleton avoided the rest. The halberd was ferocious, but it was not the most flexible. However, Prince did not leave any weak spots exposed for long. Hence, the War God number 1 was unable to gain any advantage either. F***ck. What are the two of them doing? Are they playing around? F***ck their M***ms. Some people could not help but shout out. They thought that it would be a showdown between Mars and the Earth, their mecha. However, what was happening was not up to their expectations. These brothers would just shoot their mouths off when bored. **TCHES don't understand. Only noobs would engage in fancy fights. This is a fight between experts. It's so frightening that I'm sweating in my seat." What he said rang true. Inexperienced players wouldn't be able to resist but engage in a direct confrontation immediately, trying to bite the opponent to death immediately. However, when it came to the high-ranked arenas, it would be quite normal to see two players engage in a fight for over 10 minutes without going all out. Only when they had confidence in exploiting an opponent's weak spot would they go all out. This was because once they did so, there was a chance that their own weakness would be exposed and exploited in return. Especially for snipers, it was even harder to resist such temptations to attack wildly. Prince was not surprised at the outcome. He had personally watched the last battle. In the face of the ferocious assault by Bright Moon, he was still able to maintain his calm. This was truly an expert. Cheers resounded. The halberd was suddenly raised towards the sky before being slammed into the ground heavily. The Star Emperor Corps fans were excited. This was the prince's declaration of war towards opponents he recognized. He would only show such a gesture towards these players, and it signified he would do his best. The War Emperor suddenly lurched forward, rushing towards the War God number 1. Although the speed was not high, it was full of oppressive momentum. "Kill!" Prince spoke through the public channel, his momentum like a rainbow. The War Emperor's electric halberd slashed, bringing with it an atmosphere that all had to kneel to. The movement was not quick, but no one would be able to dodge it. Wang Jung could feel it too. Even though he could easily dodge Lady Stormsword's vicious and swift attacks, Prince's move gave him a feeling that he would not be able to dodge it. This was taking hold of the rhythm of battle. His heart was one with the situation. When one wanted to strike because the opponent had slowed down and exposed a weak point, yet at the same moment the opponent accelerated forward, covering the weak point one was about to take advantage of and then retaliating, such a move would definitely cause the individual to pause. It would create a dissonance in judgment, and their body would hesitate for a brief moment. In high-ranked battles, this brief moment was enough. This was the prince's unrivaled tyrannical halberd art. Many experts had been crushed by this move. Bang! The alloy knife defended the strike and an explosion resounded. The alloy knife shuddered under the pressure, and the War God number 1 was knocked backwards. Retreat. No. He used the retreat to both dampen the blow and move backwards. This was effective against other opponents, but not the prince. His momentum would not be reduced. The force of the blow remained as the halberd pulled back. The strike was followed by a stab with the tip. It has to be said that the prince's techniques belonged to the rarely seen battlefield style. They were large and sweeping. Every move was filled with tyrannical intent. However, the moves were not swung wildly but rather left one with no place to hide. Bang! The alloy knife clashed against the halberd with both arms used to support the blow. There was a violent collision as the war god #1 was knocked flying backwards, leaving a long trail in the ground. The prince's moves were flowing and the halberd was tyrannical. However, halberd attacks tended to be slow. For the prince, this was not a problem. The moment he slashed out, the war emperor's engines roared as he tightly controlled the follow-up motions. Tyrannical sweeps were followed by a fluid motion as he lifted his weapon backwards before suddenly slashing down again. If Skeleton were to continue to block, it would definitely end with problems. Yet at this point, the war god #1 suddenly paused in its movements and the mech moved backwards at the same time its engines roared to life. It was a forced maneuver where the war god #1 dodged the halberd's strike. The difficulty of the move made people gasp out in shock. Even after he landed, he was able to maintain his balance. However, the prince had already lashed out with a follow-up move. With a turn of his body, the electric halberd swung around him, but he had missed, and the war god #1 pulled away. The prince's heaven-shaking war emperor's certain kill move. A single stroke. A brilliant flash, it would conquer all foes. The war god #1 immediately shied away. The mech had to force itself to stabilize, so how could it dodge the war emperor's halberd? This was the terror of the prince's continuous strikes. It was nothing fancy, but it could not be dodged. Some opponents who lost would feel unease and felt that it was due to luck. However, all of those who faced the prince and lost wouldn't feel this way. This was because they were defeated by superior close combat skills. The retreating war god #1 instead rolled backwards and used his knee to block the blow. Bang! Perfectly blocked, the halberd was parried, the war god #1 was pushed back slightly. He was like a relentless vengeful spirit. Leveraging the force, the engines roared to life again as the war god #1 dashed towards the war emperor, who was in close proximity. The undefeated move of the prince had finally been defeated. Furthermore, the opponent could even retaliate. The prince smiled. The halberd suddenly pulled back. Bang! The war emperor stabbed the halberd into the ground and blocked the war god #1's assault. Swift horizontal blade, unparalleled under heaven. Dink! The two mecha instantly clashed and separated. The audience members' eyes were rolling in their sockets. Was there a need to be so vicious? You were just as I expected. I always wondered if anyone could frontally block my halberd and yet still retaliate. I have never used this next move in a competition. Be careful. Prince picked up the halberd and his mech roared to life, energy flashing all about. The prince's hand that was holding the electric halberd crackled with a strong electric current. It looked like there was a lightning serpent coiled around it. The War Emperor Type 5's electric halberd could produce an electromagnetic current to harm its opponents. It was used during an attack to overload the opponent's systems. However, it would drain the mech's energy, so it was not often used. The prince had not really used it much as it might not have been ineffective. But what about now? The War Emperor renewed its assault. The electric halberd began to rotate violently in his hands, light radiating in every direction. It was as though a true god of war had descended, yet it was even more ferocious than that. The entire electric halberd looked like a weapon of the gods. Die! A single stroke struck outwards. Bang! Wang Zheng did not choose to dodge. To counter such a wide and sweeping move, one could not simply dodge it. A generic move would not be able to dodge its assault. This was a strike with all his energy. It could be seen from the moment he had prepared himself to execute the move and from the mech itself. Whoever tried to save their strength here would definitely suffer. A fierce attack had to be met with another. What followed the move were 3 other fierce strikes with the halberd. It consumed even more energy. Wang Zheng definitely wanted to close the distance. Although the prince was very familiar with battling with the halberd, this was an innate restriction of using the halberd. On the other hand, the alloy knife was no more than a small dagger, but it had its benefits. However, the strong electric current forced Wang Jung to rethink his plan. A direct assault would not be beneficial. Had he consumed his energy shields just so that Skeleton could not approach him? At this point, Wang Jung noticed that the electric current had focused on a point on the electric halberd. Not good. Prince gave a wry smile. It was over. The electric halberd flew outwards. The war god #1 was knocked flying. The entire audience noticed it. The war god #1 was not disadvantaged in any way when he engaged the war emperor in a close combat fight. However, the electric current had suddenly exploded outwards and changed the situation. However, the prince was not in much better condition. Yet at this point, the prince's hand's electric halberd was thrown outwards like a javelin. That previous explosion of electricity was sufficient to knock out any mech's energy shields. A halberd strike would then bring certain death. Yet the war god #1 did not possess an energy shield, so the shock would hit the pilot directly. The war god #1 was definitely paralyzed. This move was definitely fatal for Skeleton if he was paralyzed. Bubbly foam and the fans were all sweating profusely while clenching their fists tightly. Was it going to end this way? No, no, impossible. Everyone was clenching their fists tightly. Paralyzed, paralyzed, paralyzed. The war god #1 picked up its alloy knife. Although it was slightly slower, he still managed to pick it up. God. However, the electric halberd continued to fly before stabbing into the ground, unleashing another blast of electricity in all four directions. The War Emperor Type 5 was then pulled along with the blast. It was a forced control of the engine combined with an electromagnetic gravitational system. Carrying the momentum of the wind, the War Emperor then launched a kick towards the war god #1. Everyone was shocked. This was the prince, the undefeatable prince. This was truly heaven-defying, something no one had ever seen. Who would have thought that the prince, who was renowned for battling in a very stable fashion, would have such a heavenly move? At this point, Wang Jung threw his alloy knife away. His left hand was paralyzed, but still used it to block. Bang. This attack knocked his left arm into his body heavily, so he was unable to block the blow. However, his right arm lunged and grabbed onto the prince's right leg. Bang! The war god #1 let out a harsh cracking sound. However, the blow had been blocked and he had not been kicked away. At the same time, he grabbed onto the prince. Suddenly, Skeleton twisted his body and released his grip while doing a flip kick aiming for the head of the war emperor. Bang! The energy shield blocked the hit. Sparks flew as the war emperor was struck. The energy shield radiated in a myriad of colors when it was hit. The audience was going crazy. This B** not only received the attack but launched a counterattack? If not for the energy shield, the prince would have already been destroyed. Looking at the situation, the prince's energy shields would deplete soon. At this point, the war god #1 did not chase after him as their mechas separated. Even in his dreams did he not imagine that someone would be able to retaliate. Wang Jung then grabbed the halberd on the floor and flung it. At this point in time, Wild King and Rainbow were fighting closer and closer towards their battle area as per the original plan. Lucky was still fighting with Rainbow. The opponent was extremely strong, but it seemed as though he was too serious. This was CT, not a real battle. The atmosphere and the mentality should have been completely different. In a real battle, any round fired could kill someone. However, CT was not the same. The Rainbow who had become serious gave Lucky a lot of pressure. At the very least he did not give any opportunity to be attacked. Originally, Lucky wanted to destroy the opponent's weapon just to humiliate him. After destroying his weapon, he could be slaughtered like a pig. Never did he imagine the situation would develop like this, not even in his dreams. Suddenly, a black object flew towards him. F***CK. At this distance, and he was so accurate? He subconsciously avoided it. However, Rainbow took this opportunity to attack. During the entire course of the fight, Lucky had fired 10 shots to pressure Rainbow. However, Rainbow had not fired a single round in return. At this point in time, Rainbow rushed over. The Tempest Condor locked onto the opponent and laser beams fired in every direction. Lucky felt that something was off and immediately turned on his energy shields. Bang! Bang 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 bang. One round after another hit him. Rainbow had entered a state of nirvana, with only his laser rifle in his hand. The energy shield was gradually crumbling. Hammer wanted to rescue him, but Wild King was attacking him relentlessly. As Hammer was more skilled than Wild King's energy shields were almost depleted. However, at this point in time, he fought with his life on the line, refusing to let Hammer assist Lucky. Wild King gritted his teeth and rushed towards Hammer, directly blocking Hammer's laser rifle. 1 for 1. This would be worth it. Bang, bang, Wild King felt a warm feeling engulf him as he could only hear static crackling. 2 mecha exploded. Lucky and Wild King had simultaneously died. When the battle had just begun, no one would have expected such a result. The one who known as the strongest sniper, Lucky, was actually destroyed by an unknown person by the name of Rainbow. The battle had become a 2-on-2. After losing his equipment, it had become a battle of one's gunnery skills. Whether it was the Star Emperor Corp's opponents or the Prince, they were all rounded, and Prince's gunnery skills weren't bad. More importantly, the War Emperor Type 5 was equipped with Mars' favorite flame laser rifle. Its accuracy was average, but its power was immense. The Tempest Condor had arrived beside the War God number 1. Normally, a sniper left alive was an advantage. However, if the sniper was discovered from his ambush position, it was a different situation. On the opposite side, the War Emperor Type 5 and the Gold Guardian were standing next to each other. Hammer felt slightly angry. He had been blocked at the critical moment by a noob. This was a failure on his part as a support. A support was supposed to observe the entire situation and assist where it was necessary. Their focus was not to engage in battle. On the other hand, Wild King had made the more correct decision and achieved his objective. However, the situation was not that bad. The battle was not over. *MN. Although they were still worried, the Skeleton Corps were still cheering. Wild King being able to block Hammer was indeed a mystery. During the critical moment, he was even able to block his opponent. He even accomplished his mission. However, the current situation was not good. A long-ranged battle was still determined by one's energy shield. However, the War Emperor had exhausted a large portion of his shields and the energy was running low, so it would not be of much use at this point. However, the real problem was Hammer. The Gold Guardian had an extremely strong energy shield. When he got serious, it would also give any close combatant a hard time. Before the current situation, both sides were treating it like a game. However, after the loss of a teammate, the atmosphere had become more serious. It was not meant to be much of a challenge. However, when Wild King ferociously blocked Hammer's shot and was destroyed, Wang Zheng's anger was aroused. Although he did not spend any time with the Skeleton Corps, the most interesting things of the day would be told to him by Yan Xiaoshu. Hence he was not at all unfamiliar with Rainbow nor Wild King. The two of them had treated him as their captain, however, he had not been a competent one. "Captain, we have to destroy them." Hammer was furious. These 3 shrimps had actually managed to take advantage of them. Vroom. The flame laser rifle's engine had started. No one had the intention of escaping. Blood was rushing through their heads. Even if they were merely acting brave, if they retreated at this point in time, it would be humiliating. "Skeleton, what shall we do? Kill them?" A tinge of bloodlust could be seen in Wang Zheng's eyes. He fired his laser rifle. In a split second, both sides had started firing at each other. They dodged and they returned fire. Rainbow focused on dodging and did not attack. However, this allowed him to fully focus on the task and hence his energy shields were not weakened. Prince's state of mind was not at its peak. However, the Gold Guardian was a defensive type mech, so its energy shields were extremely strong and it received hits for Prince while simultaneously returning fire. Streak after streak of lasers whizzed past. The War God number 1 was dodging extremely quickly. He made use of cover to even return fire. However, the Prince's flame laser rifle was extremely powerful, so the cover would be instantly destroyed upon being hit. The War God number 1's shots never missed the target. Each time he hit, the energy shield would flicker. The battle was reaching its climax. Both sides could not exhibit many of their skills. They had to rely on their mecha's abilities. "Hammer, let's stop playing around. Let us go all out." Lucky was extremely furious. Even in such an unimportant game, someone had overturned his boat. It was humiliating. Rainbow used a sniper mech. Even though he was focusing on dodging, under such a relentless assault, it was just too difficult to remain unharmed. If things continued going on this way, he would definitely be finished. Prince and Hammer seemed to have come to a tacit agreement. Both of them were using their firepower to push the war god number 1 and the Tempest Condor towards the center of the map. It looked as though they wanted to prevent them from fleeing. With Skeleton's personal abilities, if he wanted to engage in guerrilla combat, it would really cause them a headache. However, Wang Jung did not have any intention of doing that. When he saw that the two of them were close to each other, the flame laser rifle stopped firing. Instead, an energy ball was condensing at the tip of the rifle. Not good. Rainbow suddenly had a bad feeling. D*MN, how could he have forgotten? However, it was now too late to split up. The Gold Guardian ignored all damage to itself. He just had to contain them for a few seconds. Once the energy condensed, it would be able to completely shred the both of them. When the energy had finished charging up, Prince's eyes were bloodshot. Have a taste of the flame explosion. Rainbow gritted his teeth. The Tempest Condor rushed in front of the war god number 1. Run, quickly. Even when the energy shields were operating at max, he would only be able to block for a few seconds. He knew that Skeleton would definitely make the most appropriate judgment. This was their only chance. He would not allow Skeleton's winning streak to end here. Let us die together. At this point in time, Rainbow felt a huge blast of energy heading towards him. The Tempest Condor's body was suddenly knocked into the air. Right in front of him was a wide, exposed gap. The flame laser fired. This. On the screen, Lear's mouth had a cold smile hung on it. I overestimated this peasant. In his view, Skeleton had wasted his only chance. His indecisiveness had led to the destruction of his team. It was truly stupid. At this point in time, Rainbow received a message. Fire. The war god number 1 was now equipped with an extra beam saber. It was Rainbow's? Bang 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 bang. The laser blasted. Go and die, Rainbow shouted. Even in his dreams he did not expect Skeleton to give him this opportunity. He had entered a complete state of focus. He did not even need the Luoluo tracking system. He could see everything around him clearly. Without a doubt, all he needed to hit the target was to feel where his target was and fire. This was the state he had always been pursuing. However, not even in his dreams did he expect to finally attain this state. Bang 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 bang, everyone's focus was on Skeleton. Hammer was extremely happy. However, he had underestimated the Tempest Condor's sniping abilities. Rainbow, who had been consistently waiting, suddenly burst into action. He had directly destroyed the Gold Guardian's defense and destroyed the Gold Guardian itself with another shot. Hammer slammed his fist against the CT apparatus. F***CK, he had actually been destroyed. However, victory was still theirs. The now defenseless prince did not know what to do. He did not dodge. Neither did he fire back at the Tempest Condor in the air. He had a second's worth of time to react, yet he did not do anything and awaited death. Bang! The prince had been destroyed. But, why? Why was there no indication of the war god number 1 exploding? When the dust settled, the shadow of a mech appeared. The war god number 1. What happened? The entire audience was silent, and the commentators did not say anything. There was no video replay either. This was because the battle had not ended. At this point in time, Team Skeleton could choose to go for a tie or attack the enemy's mine cluster. Comrade Old Deer was completely shocked. He had an extremely bad feeling. This skeleton was definitely trying to do something. Captain, my mech's energy shields are still operational. Let me enter the minefield first. We still have a chance. Worst case it will be a draw, Rainbow said. At this point in time, his tone was not that of a casual player but that of a special forces member. It was a pity that the minefield prohibited flying and hence he could not fly over it. The war god number 1 was not completely undamaged. The mech had several holes in it. However, they were all in non-critical areas. He walked towards the Tempest Condor and returned the beam saber. I will not let my brothers in arms die for me, trust me. Rainbow gritted his teeth as he retrieved his beam saber. To be frank, He only played CT to relax. Life as a Special Forces member was tough, and little did he expect that. Just who was this guy? The skeleton core was silent. Was he going to kill himself? There was a tragic atmosphere in the air, however, in the skeleton core, there was no going back. Contestant Skeleton has decided to enter the minefield. Even if fails, he will still do his best. This is Skeleton. This is the skeleton core. This is Rainbow and Wild King, bravo. Bubbly Foam's eyes were red. Even if it was a tie, it would be considered Team Skeleton's victory. Looking at Old Deer beside her, what was he doing? Oh no, this is not good. Comrade Old Deer was mumbling to himself. The War God #1 opened an infrared energy detecting device. Although it was not optimal, it could detect the mines in the minefield to a certain extent. However, one's perception could be wrong. In fact, if he reacted too slowly, he would also die. Old Deer's heart thumped as he held his breath. The War God #1 rushed into the minefield. There were over 100 light mines. Just one mistake would end him. It was impossible to dodge the explosions as well. No human had ever done so. The following 5 short minutes, an asphyxiating 5 minutes for that matter, allowed everyone to see a precise and impeccable operation of a mech. The system tracked the progress very closely. The audience could see the layout of the mines and the movement of the War God #1. A blind traverse was when one was rushing for time, utilizing the strength of the energy shields to block the damage from the minefield when rushing through. However, he was not blindly traversing. The War God #1 was like a ghost as it weaved through the minefield. Not a single landmine was tripped. When the War God #1 stood on the other side of the minefield, this scene had shocked everyone. The Tempest Condor on the other side saluted him. Regardless of who he was, regardless of his job, it had all impressed Rainbow. It was the work of a god. Team Skeleton win. The system finally released the huge announcement. The sound was incredibly high-pitched and even dragged on. In countless places, people cheered thunderously. There was no need for words. However, people were most curious about what had happened when the flame laser rifle had fired. How did the War God #1 leave unscathed? In the VIP broadcasting room, everyone maintained their calm. This was the benefit of watching the stream live. Everyone had to wait for the analysis at the same time. On the screen, the mecha appeared and the video was played in slow motion. The flame laser rifle had fired in a burst towards the beam saber. The beam saber had blocked 8 of the shots. Skeleton had dodged 5 shots with a high-frequency dodge, while Prince had missed 26 shots. The 2 times he had hit, they did not land on critical areas. The VIP area was full of Earth's CT experts. Many of them even knew the Prince. There were many professional teams there who shocked by Skeleton's calm and monstrous piloting skills. He was just like a robot. The live streaming area was silent. After a period of time, a young man sighed. Perhaps if the Prince opted for a precision battle, there might have been a chance. If it was you, would you even do that? Another person who looked identical to him chimed in. They were twin brothers, the Earth region's Blair brothers. They were renowned for being almost telepathic when it came to working together. In the ranking of the top players during the King's Challenge, both of them occupied spots in it. No one had expected that someone would be able to dodge such a barrage of attacks. This had already exceeded most people's imagination. Lear's pupils widened before he quietly turned off the screen and the entire room submerged into darkness. His choice of action was not stupid. He was a peerless warrior. Young Master, the investigation results are out. Speak. According to our data, the opponent seems like he is from Earth. However, there are traces of information that suggest he is from Atlantis. Any other information requires the highest clearance. Hence we should not continue looking for further information. Lear waved his hands in the dark. Atlantis? Why would someone be so bored as to gallivant around Earth? Sigh. Truly a masterpiece, the War God had descended. Even the most beautiful of words could not describe this match. Accordingly, the level of fanaticism was also different. When the battle ended, the people in the VIP lounge were shocked. They were so shocked that they couldn't even make a sound. It seemed as though this battle had left an unforgettable mark on each of them. On the other hand, the skeleton core was cheering loudly. So what if it was a professional? he would be destroyed all the same. Rainbow and Wild King truly deserved their titles as heroes. What's so important about coordination? Why does anyone even need a team? What was most important was the fact that all were for one, and one was for all. They had already reached the highest level. When the match ended, Student Skeleton disappeared. However, Rainbow remained to answer questions. Rainbow, everyone would like to know how you communicated with the team. We heard that you have never fought as an organized team before. However, everyone realized that your ability to communicate tacitly was amazing. How did you do it? Bubbly Foam asked. Rainbow smiled. Trust, what did it mean to be a team? Trust was the most important thing. Old dear, you look kind of pale. As one of the key members of the Skeleton Corps, Rainbow could not let this opportunity pass by. An eye for an eye after all. This old me is feeling sick. I should be fine after some rest. Old dear looked like a little emperor who had been wronged. He had suddenly realized that his premonitions were even more accurate than others. Granny's leg. Congratulations, Rainbow, for your victory. Do you have anything you want to say right now? Bubbly Foam smiled. She looked extremely cute at this point in time. Rainbow's face turned red. Little Bubbly, would you be willing to be my girlfriend? Bubbly Foam never imagined he would say this here. The entire Skeleton Corps was roaring with laughter. Rainbow seemed so shy. Bubbly Foam's face turned red. However, the answer was certain. Yan Xiaoshu, who was standing at the side, also laughed. He pulled open Wang Zheng's CT capsule door. Little Red Noob is hilarious. He's done for this time. He will definitely be ridiculed to the end of time. Little Red Noob, everyone loves you. Would you be willing to be my girlfriend? Little Red Noob, let's get on the bed together. Wild King loved to cause a ruckus. This battle was one of his most exhilarating ones yet. At times, one's rate of winning when playing solo was very low. A team truly allowed one to be at their strongest. Here, one was not merely looking for their own identity but that of the team's. Bubbly Foam bowed as she said, "Good day, everyone. The livestream will end here. What's coming next is an analysis of the competition. Thank you for watching. Please give a hand of applause to all the participants. Thank you, everyone." In the CT office, all of the employees were cheering. This victory was truly too awesome. Boss, this was just too intense. When I saw the War God #1 reappear, my heart skipped a beat. I almost lost my year-end bonus. That person is truly audacious. I feel that he truly is a real man. All you grandpas, I am sure Skeleton was not fully confident of his win, but a true man will live up to his responsibilities. That's right, that was just too satisfying. This was the first time I felt that my work was just too cool. Solon smiled. All right, report the data. After we tidy it up, we can publish it. Boss, we have exceeded over 3.5 million viewers, and it's continuing to rise. At this rate, we will likely exceed 4 million viewers. Once this number appeared on the screen, the whole room devolved into a frenzy. This was just an amateur battle, but it had broken existing records. It was comparable to the viewer count of a professional battle. Boss, how shall we title the report? Amateur overcomes professionals. Solon paused to think, pondering for a brief moment. Invincibility stemming from trust. Rainbow wanted to block a round for Skeleton as he knew that Skeleton could win the competition for them. However, when Skeleton had thrown Rainbow into the air, he definitely believed in Rainbow's ability to defeat the two of them. Otherwise, the two of them would definitely have lost. During the moment of crisis, what was important was trust. This match was extremely important. It went without saying that no one was joking around. After working for so many years, with all the infighting in his company, Solon had become desensitized to everything that happened. However, Solon finally felt something from this. It was something that had been missing for many years. This was a great victory. This plan could have been considered to be successful. He had always fought with the board of directors, however he finally now had the courage to struggle with them all the way. Release the horses, it was time to fight. The surrounding workers looked at Solon in awe. He seemed to have gained a newfound confidence. The reason why they strived so hard was also due to their trust in Solon. In CT's top video rankings, the video of Team Skeleton versus the Star Emperor Corps ascended like a rocket through the rankings. This was a miracle because it had managed to displace the professional videos who had always had a monopoly on the top few most viewed videos. In the VIP area, the number of people gradually increased. This was just too awesome. The prince had actually demonstrated his trump card meant for professional competitions in this amateur match. Although he had failed, there were no doubts about the prince's strength. The War Emperor's electric halberd and electromagnetic attraction system was executed flawlessly. This move had immense killing potential. If the move was successful, Prince would no doubt have occupied the headlines. Unfortunately, the new headline was slightly different. This move had been mercilessly countered. In Skeleton's eyes, all whimsical moves would be crushed. To Wang Jung, any imaginative moves like that were simply not practical enough to be used. Firstly, he would not have panicked when the move failed. Wang Jung had essentially experienced all possible types of moves in his training with Bonehead. If someone had seen a new move for the first time, it was almost guaranteed that Wang Jung would have understood and even experienced the move in some way or another. In fact, Wang Jung would definitely have understood the concept behind it. It would be difficult to surprise him. In fact, when it came to technical skills, when the prince's imaginative move was used against the war god number 1, it was a miracle that he had even dodged the electric blast and furthermore had even dodged all the mines, even those in his blind spot, which caused him to be completely overshadowed. This skill had far surpassed the ordinary battle skill of the professionals on Earth. Perhaps Skeleton really was a professional player? However, what shocked everyone was not only his technical skills, it was Skeleton team's cooperation. It was so natural. In most teams, they would have arranged for whom to be sacrificed and who would defend, however this was not the case in their team. When the war god number 1 flung the Tempest Condor into the air, everyone was blown away by the sight. This was true cooperation. This was truly a classic example of a battle. Spending $10 Federation to watch this competition was truly worth it. The Skeleton Corp once again had an explosive increase in the number of members. This time, not only Skeleton was in the limelight, Rainbow and Wild King had also become exceptionally famous. Who would have expected that Wild King, who had previously been crushed by Hammer, would actually play so well? During the critical moment, he made the right decision and acted decisively, winning the game for them. Rainbow was also famous. Many people thought that the Skeleton Corps was just full of noobs, that they were just a group that made a lot of noise. Who would have thought that Rainbow, a platinum-ranked player, would actually be able to face off against Lucky without giving any ground? During the crucial point of the battle, he had even finished off Lucky, Hammer, and even the Prince. This was something rarely seen even in professional battles. This would not be possible without being able to stay sufficiently calm and without having sufficient skill. The battle wouldn't have been won even if Skeleton had heaven-defying skills. The courage brought about by winning the match gave Little Red Noob the confidence to ask out Bubbly Foam. Even under relentless cheers, Bubbly Foam agreed. This was a brave individual. Every battle was a celebration. The Skeleton Corps quieted down slightly. Bubbly Foam had come and Little Red Noob was being ridiculed endlessly. At Norton's Island of Life, this was a satellite outside of Earth that belonged to the Solar System Federation. It was an artificial space city. Although it was a space city, it had the best medical facilities in the entire solar system and was also known as Paradise Island. Changsun was currently undergoing the best medical treatment. His condition was quite complicated, so a normal place would not be able to treat him and the costs were high. Changsun turned off his Skylink. He had just finished listening to the explanation of the entire battle. He was extremely happy for his brothers in his heart. To be honest, he did not feel that there was any chance of victory. The difficulty was just too high. Rainbow and Wild King had definitely exceeded their potential. Man had unlimited potential. Under pressure, they would be able to exhibit super strength. It could be said that Skeleton was excellent at motivating them. However, what Changsun did not expect, as well as the Prince, was that Skeleton would play an auxiliary role. This distracted the Prince and Hammer. If they had not wanted to focus their efforts on defeating the War God number 1, the result would not have been the same. By relegating himself to support, Hammer's attention was focused on one individual, and he lost sight of the overall picture. It was definitely his loss.